Hi folks, with Tacitus today at your Pushback channel, and thank you for joining this radio live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about what students in many schools, certainly across the Western world, what they're being taught, and more importantly, or just as importantly, what are they being encouraged to do? Because the schools are attempting to shape their civic behaviour, their social behaviour, not only in school but outside of it. Now this is starting in primary school, if not earlier, and going right through to college. So we've got students that are being subject to, this sort of propaganda indoctrination through the education system, which no Western government is pushing back against, by the way. In fact, they're encouraging it, they're funding it, they're supporting it, or they're looking the other way. It doesn't really matter, but students are being taught to hate white society, to hate white nations, to hate white history, to hate straight people, to hate capitalism, to hate males, anything and everything that contributed to the wealth and the plenty that we see today in the Western world is deemed as bad. Now, anyone who's not white or not white male or straight white male is deemed as being oppressed to varying degrees and thus denied a front row seat. So now the sort of education here is very Marxist, and it looks at all social issues through the prism of all outcomes exactly equal. Equal by race, equal by gender, equal by sexual proclivity, equal by any measure you want to apply. Are the outcomes equal? Because if they're not equal, then it's not due to somebody being brighter or smarter, somebody working harder, somebody studying harder at school, someone being more ambitious or focused, or having just being a faster runner or having better health. It's not due to any of that. It's due to oppression. Now, having decided, well, the outcome's not equal, so it all must be bad. Let's work backwards from here, because the scientific method works forward. You have to prove that, based on objective criteria, you have to prove that the thesis that you're driving at is accurate and can be reproduced and tested. The Marxists do it the other way around. They say, well, we know what the outcome is. That's an undisputed fact. So I'll now just work backwards and use only facts that will support the conclusion we've already predetermined. So all conclusions are predetermined. And again, if outcomes are not equal, then that must be due to oppression. And we see there's a big drive on in Australia at the moment, and there's a new leftist government, federal government that's come in, and they're putting about this whole thing through the education system that if there are not an equal number of scientists by gender and by race and by sexuality, if they're not equal number of scientists, then it can only be due to discrimination and oppression and so on, racism, misogyny, and it can, so they just treat that as a fact, and then say, well, we have to take action to stop this racism, misogyny, and oppression and so on. So they then institute schemes to address an oppression and a racism and a misogyny that doesn't even exist. So the only thing they can do is say, well, it's just too many white people, too many straight white males here. We have to reduce the amount of straight white males, and then we've achieved this socialist Marxist paradise that is only ever around the next corner, but somehow is never achieved. But there's a thread now that's certainly been running through in the last 2 or 3 years, I guess. And it's been there, but it's now really at the forefront, and it's called restorative justice. So restorative justice, not equal justice or equal outcome justice, but it's restorative justice. So that means, just breaking it down, it means apart from attacking everything that's white or attacking capitalism and all this sort of thing, apart from that, it's meant to be that if all, for example, if all black lesbians are not as rich as all straight white males, then there is an injustice, not simply discrimination, oppression, and so on, but there are centuries of it, thousands of years of it. And so white people must compensate the black lesbians today for that lack of equality that spans centuries and thousands of years. So to restore to the black lesbians what in ideological terms they in theory would have had if everyone had been equal, if outcomes had been equal, and so on. Now, if we look at the students that are in the more leftist high schools and colleges, and there's an increasing number of those. When I think back to my own time in high school, which isn't that long ago, I remember there were teachers there who you could sort of tell that their sympathies were leftist, but they didn't let it get the better of them. They weren't advocating street marches and things like that. But they were, today students are being encouraged to believe that they have no rights, that Nazis are in control everywhere. Now that's a tough gig. I just don't know how the teachers successfully sell this one. The entire media establishment, pretty much the entire political establishment, certainly the entire public service establishment, the entire education establishment, publishing, you name it, movies, Hollywood, TV production, documentaries, everything is leaning heavily to the left. So what exactly, where can you point to Nazis are everywhere and in control? It's an impossible argument to push, yes, yet they do. And they've convinced these students that you have to get out on the street. You got to stop these damn fucking Nazis. The world's going to end from climate change any day now. And Hitler is everywhere. And anyone who says that we should restrict migration to skilled people that speak English is Hitler. That proves that Hitler is everywhere. And if anyone says that you should, abortion should be restricted to the first semester or special cases or something, they're Hitler too. And anyone that says the world isn't going to end in the next 5 minutes, they're Hitler. And anyone that says that 10-year-old kids shouldn't be able to transgender, they're Hitler as well. So you see, that's it. Hitler is everywhere. Every corner, under every bed, in every closet, Hitler is there. And you've got to fight back against that because Hitler's about to take over. That's right. Hitler's about to take. You've got to fight back. You've got to get out there in the street and stop Hitler. And that's what you're doing when you get out there and you placard wave and so on. You chant and you go, hey, ho, ho. Da, 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 da. When you do that, you are stopping Hitler. You're not making an ass of yourself and behaving like a silly little trollop idiot. No. You're stopping Hitler. That's what you're doing. And when you dye your hair blue, that's another way of stopping Hitler. And when you transgender to be a cross-dressing lesbian, black, then you're also stopping Hitler. All these things you do are stopping Hitler. So you get out there and do them. Now, the schools are really pushing this, and it's amazing, particularly young girls, but it's amazing how many people they suck in with this. It seems inconceivable. Facts obviously don't get in the way. Reality certainly doesn't get in the way. And there are no politicians or anyone really prepared to stop it or even slow it down or speak against it. Sure, the odd one or two, but the people that could really make the difference don't. Even when President Trump was in office and Betsy DeVos was the education secretary, she talked tough about stopping all this nonsense, but really did very little at the end of the day. Not that everything she tried to do wasn't challenged in a court, and activist judges were quickly found to put a stop to. I'm not suggesting it was easy, but the vigor with which the left pushes their education agenda is just off the charts. Whereas when the people on the right are in a position to do something about it and stop it or even slow it down, they're very, very timid by comparison. So this restorative justice is where the compensation idea comes from, that black people should be compensated and so on and so forth. But it's also crept very much into Western jurisprudence, right across the Western world, and how courts operate, activist judges, activist lawyers, and so on. They're very much along the lines of compensating the so-called oppressed. So I know quite a few lawyers, and if they're representing a client, they'll say, for goodness sake, do not turn up in court well dressed, clean shaven and shampooed hair and shiny shoes. I mean, do not turn up well dressed. Don't dress in rags, but as near as you can to it without looking totally shabby. Appear in an old baseball cap that's faded. Appear in jeans that that have seen many goes in the washing machine. Wear a t-shirt. Wear cheap clothes that you would buy in the discount bins in Walmart. Wear those sort of clothes and turn up looking. Don't look too confident. For God's sake, don't look too confident. Look downtrodden. Look oppressed. Dress like you're oppressed, because these lawyers say that if the courts think, well, gee, you're pretty confident, you look like you're doing all right, you're well dressed, well, what we'll do is we'll take from you and give to them, because that's restorative justice. That's restoring the equal outcome that should always have been there. It always should have been an equal outcome, and the fact it's not means that the ideologically predetermined as oppressed, they have to be compensated for the oppressions that the others have inflicted upon them. It's quite insane, but we're looking at a situation in the legal field now and in courts, and not simply in divorce courts, but in all manner of courts, where this restorative justice idea is being practiced. I mean, if you look at, say, even the Kyle Rittenhouse case, they had nothing on him. He'd done nothing wrong. He was clearly self-defense. But that was the argument from the catcalling from the leftist media and the leftist infiltrated Department of Prosecutions. They and the constant theme they kept coming back to was underwritten by this very ideological concept of restorative justice. And I think it's getting worse. And I think if it hasn't already taken over the entire Western legal practice, jurisprudence, then it's about to, and unless serious action is taken to stop it and demand, and not demand, but you are obligated, 100% obligated, as a lawyer, or as a judge rather, or any functionary in the justice system, you're 100% obligated to be completely objective and completely impartial. And if you can't be, if you're going to sit wearing pussy hats while you're hearing a case, and then you're going to get another job. You're in the wrong job, and that's something that needs to be rigorously enforced, because the entire legal system now, judges, appeal court judges, and so on, is just shot through with activist judicial officers at every turn. Now, I'm sure if a case comes before them where there's no ideological sort of undertones or overtones or anything, I'm sure they'd hear it impartially. But it's getting increasingly difficult and more difficult by the day to have any legal case that hasn't been touched by this activism, and thus the likelihood of them getting a case that doesn't have an ideological attachment there, and thus compromising their impartiality. The likelihood of them getting a case is getting slimmer by the day. So this is something we really need to push back against. You've been a Tassus to your pushback channel, and thank you for listening.